You probably have this in your kitchen right now, maybe even within arm's reach, and almost nobody realizes what it may be doing inside the body after sunset. I'm not talking about an expensive supplement, a trendy powder, or some miracle pill sold in a late-night commercial. I'm talking about a common oil that many seniors already buy, already cook with, and already trust. But here's the part that should get your attention. Used the right way, the right kind of this oil may help your blood vessels relax, may help calm inflammation, and may support healthier blood pressure while you sleep. And if you're using the wrong kind, you may be missing the benefit entirely. Before we begin, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss simple heart-saving tips designed especially for seniors. I'm Dr. Sandra Whitmore, and after more than 2 decades working with heart patients, I can tell you this with complete honesty, the most dangerous blood pressure readings are often not the ones people see at noon. They're the ones building quietly in the dark. They're the numbers rising before sunrise. They're the inflammatory changes happening while a person believes their body is resting. And what troubles me most is how many older Americans are doing almost everything right. They take the medication. They watch the salt. They go to bed on time. And still, their vessels stay irritated, tight, and under pressure through the night without them ever knowing it. That's why this conversation matters so much. Because the hours between bedtime and breakfast are not empty hours. They are biologically active hours. Your heart is supposed to get a break then. Your arteries are supposed to soften a little. Stress signals are supposed to come down. Your system is supposed to move into repair mode. But when inflammation stays high and blood vessels stay stiff, the body never fully settles. And then morning comes, and the heart is asked to wake up and work hard immediately. That is one reason the early hours can be so dangerous for strokes, heart strain, and sudden blood pressure surges. Let me tell you about Raymond from Columbus, Ohio, because his story explains this better than any chart ever could, and I think you may see yourself in it. Raymond was 73, a retired postal worker, proud grandfather, steady routine, same breakfast every day, same recliner every evening, same check of the front porch before bed. He had been treating high blood pressure for years. On paper, his numbers looked decent. At his clinic visits, he usually came in around the mid-130s. Not perfect, but acceptable. He felt pretty confident. Then he started waking up with a pounding head, tight shoulders, and a strange, flushed feeling around 5:15 every morning. That was the first sign something deeper was going on. Raymond assumed it was age. That's what many people do, and honestly, it's one of the biggest mistakes I see. He figured morning discomfort was just part of getting older. Maybe poor sleep, maybe stress, maybe he got up too fast. But when he finally started checking his blood pressure first thing in the morning before coffee, before the news, before even putting on his slippers, the readings shocked him. He wasn't in the 130s then. He was seeing 152, 158, sometimes even higher. And by lunchtime, the numbers would settle again, which meant the real problem was hiding during the night and revealing itself only at dawn. When I reviewed Raymond's evening habits, one detail stood out immediately, not because it looked terrible, but because it looked ordinary. Dinner most nights was simple. Toast with butter, baked potato with a little more butter, sometimes deli turkey, sometimes canned soup, sometimes crackers while he watched television. He thought he was eating lightly. He thought he was being careful. But what his body was getting in the evening was a combination of sodium, saturated fat, and very little in the way of anti-inflammatory support. No wonder his arteries weren't calming down overnight. They were going to bed irritated, and they were waking up irritated. So I had Raymond make one change first. Just one, because dramatic overhauls often fail. I didn't ask him to become a different person. I didn't hand him some complicated food plan with ingredients he couldn't pronounce. I simply told him to replace the butter-heavy evening pattern with extra virgin olive oil used intentionally at supper, a tablespoon over his vegetables, a drizzle over beans, a little over whole grain toast instead of butter. Not a shot, not a gimmick, just a real food used in the part of the day when his vessels most needed support. And over the next several weeks, his mornings began to change. Now, before I tell you exactly what happened with Raymond, I want to reveal the oil, because there's no point in dragging out the truth any longer, especially when it may already be in your pantry. The oil I'm talking about is extra virgin olive oil. Not light olive oil, not pure olive oil that has been heavily refined, and not the cheap bottle that tastes flat and does almost nothing beyond adding calories. I'm talking about true extra virgin olive oil, the kind that still contains the natural plant compounds that make it so powerful. That distinction matters, because this is where most people lose the benefit before they even begin. And here's why extra virgin olive oil deserves your attention. Its benefit is not just that it's a fat, it's that it's the right kind of fat, carrying the right kind of protective compounds. Extra virgin olive oil is rich in monounsaturated fat, especially oleic acid, and it also contains natural polyphenols that help fight oxidative stress and vascular irritation. In plain English, that means it may help your arteries function more smoothly instead of staying tense and inflamed. It doesn't sedate the body. It doesn't force the pressure down like a drug. It supports the inner environment your blood vessels need if they're going to relax the way they're supposed to. Think of your arteries like flexible garden hoses rather than rigid metal pipes, because that image helps seniors understand this immediately. When arteries are healthy, they expand and adapt. Blood flows with less resistance. The heart doesn't have to shove so hard against the vessel wall. But when inflammation is high, those hoses get less forgiving. They don't widen as easily. They react more sharply. They stay touchy, almost defensive. Extra virgin olive oil appears to help in part by improving the condition of the endothelium, which is the delicate inner lining of your blood vessels. When that lining works better, blood flow improves and pressure has a chance to come down naturally. One of the reasons that matters so much at night is something called nitric oxide, and I promise not to make this overly technical. Nitric oxide is one of the signals your body uses to tell blood vessels to loosen and open. You want enough of it available, especially when your body is trying to shift into nighttime repair. But oxidative stress and inflammation can interfere with that process. They make it harder for your vessels to respond the way they should. Extra virgin olive oil appears to help preserve that healthy signaling. So instead of your arteries spending the night braced and narrowed, they may stay more cooperative. That's one reason I get frustrated when people say, it's just oil. No, it isn't just oil if it's extra virgin and used properly. And it definitely isn't the same as slathering butter on white toast at 8 p.m. The body notices what fat it has to work with. It notices whether that meal increased inflammatory stress or helped settle it. It notices whether you gave it compounds that support the vessel lining or compounds that encourage stiffness. Seniors often underestimate how much their supper still affects them while they sleep. But it does. The body keeps responding long after the dishes are washed and the television is off. Let me come back to Raymond, because this is where the story gets personal and practical. After about 2 weeks of using extra virgin olive oil with his evening meal, he told me something interesting. He said, "Doc, I don't know if it's the oil or not, but I don't feel as revved up in the morning." That was his phrase, revved up. His face wasn't as flushed. His shoulders were less tense. He wasn't waking with that same pounding sensation. By the end of the first month, his morning readings had drifted downward. Not perfectly, not magically, but meaningfully. Instead of the upper 150s, he was seeing mid-140s, then upper 130s on better days. And here's the important part. Raymond did not stop his medication, and I need every viewer to hear that clearly. This is not about replacing prescribed care with wishful thinking. This is about improving the terrain. This is about supporting your cardiovascular system, so the good things you are already doing have a better chance to work. Too many seniors hear about a natural strategy and immediately think they should throw away the pills. No, please don't do that. The smarter approach is to let the food support the medicine, let the routine support the body, and let your blood pressure log tell the truth. That's how safe progress happens. Now let's talk about inflammation, because the title of this video matters, and this is the part many people never connect to blood pressure. Inflammation isn't always obvious. It doesn't always feel like a swollen ankle or an aching knee. Sometimes it shows up more quietly as irritated vessels, poor endothelial function, sluggish circulation, worse stiffness, and a body that never quite drops into repair mode. A senior can look fairly normal, be moving through the day, and still have a low-grade inflammatory burden straining the cardiovascular system around the clock. And when that burden stays elevated into the night, blood pressure often follows it right up. I want you to picture your evening meal like a final message to your body before bed, because in many ways that's exactly what it is. If that message is heavy, salty, processed, and pro-inflammatory, your system spends the night dealing with fallout. If the message is steadier, cleaner, and more supportive, your body has a better chance to repair. Extra virgin olive oil isn't valuable because it gives you a dramatic sensation. In fact, its power is almost boring. That's why so many people overlook it. It works in the background. It nudges biology in a healthier direction. And over time, those background effects can become very meaningful. There's also something else you need to know. The benefit is not from any olive oil-shaped bottle you happen to grab at the supermarket, and that misunderstanding is costing people real results. Refined olive oils are often stripped of many of the natural phenols that make extra virgin olive oil special. That's why 2 bottles can sit side by side with similar labels and very different potential. One may mostly give you fat and flavor. The other may give you fat, flavor, and the compounds that support vessel health. If you have been saying, "I tried olive oil and nothing happened," there's a very good chance you never actually tried the version that matters most. So how do you recognize the right one without making this complicated? First, look for the words extra virgin olive oil, not light, pure, or simply olive oil. Second, choose a bottle that gives you some sense of freshness, because freshness matters. Third, don't be afraid if it has a slight peppery bite in the throat. Many people think that means the oil is harsh. In reality, that little catch can be a sign of the natural compounds still being present. And fourth, store it like something valuable. Keep it away from heat and light. Don't let it sit beside the stove for months. Even a good oil can become a poor one if it's mishandled. Let me tell you about Nancy from Sarasota, Florida, because she taught me another lesson, one that I think many viewers over 60 will recognize. Nancy was 69, energetic, still driving herself everywhere, still volunteering twice a week, but she had that classic pattern I see so often. By evening, she would say she felt puffy. Her rings felt tighter. Her legs felt heavy. Her joints felt stiffer after dinner. And in the morning, her blood pressure would often be higher than expected. She assumed the swelling and the pressure had nothing to do with each other. But both were part of a larger picture. Her body was spending the night inflamed and overloaded. Nancy's evening meal looked heart-friendly on the surface, but only on the surface. She was eating low-fat frozen dinners, low-fat crackers, low-fat dressings, and margarine because she believed avoiding fat was always better for the heart. But those meals were often high in sodium, highly processed, and deeply unsatisfying, which meant she kept snacking afterward. I had her stop chasing low-fat labels and start building a calmer supper instead. Real vegetables. Beans a few nights a week. A simple salad. Baked chicken or salmon occasionally. And 1 to 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil used across that meal. Not poured recklessly, but used deliberately as the main added fat. Within 3 weeks, Nancy said something I'll never forget, because it was such a plain-spoken senior observation. She said, "My body feels quieter at night." That was her language. Quieter, less throbbing in her hands, less heaviness in her legs, less urge to snack after dinner. Her morning numbers also improved enough that she started trusting her body again instead of fearing the cuff every sunrise. And that emotional shift matters. Seniors carry a lot of silent dread around blood pressure. Every reading can feel like a verdict. When the body starts cooperating again, even modestly, it restores a sense of dignity and control that medicine alone sometimes can't provide. Now, I want to be precise here because hype helps nobody. Extra virgin olive oil is not a one-night trick. If you swallow a spoonful tonight and expect your blood pressure to be perfect tomorrow morning, you may be disappointed. That's not how this works. The reason this oil can be so helpful is because repeated use changes the environment in which your blood vessels operate. It supports better endothelial function. It may reduce inflammatory stress. It may improve how your body handles the fats, replacing less healthy ones. Those changes build. They accumulate. They reinforce each other. And while those healthier processes are happening, your body benefits during the overnight hours when repair is supposed to happen anyway. That brings us to the question everybody wants answered. How much should you use? And this is where people usually underdo it or overdo it, with very little in between. For most adults, 1 to 2 tablespoons per day is the practical range I discuss most often, especially when the goal is cardiovascular support within a real eating pattern. If you're tiny, very sedentary, or on a tightly controlled calorie plan, 1 tablespoon may be a smart place to begin. If you're replacing butter, creamy dressings, or mayonnaise at dinner, 2 tablespoons across the evening meal may fit beautifully. But more is not always better. Remember, this is food, not a contest. And timing matters more than most people realize, especially for those with high morning readings. If your blood pressure tends to be worst at daybreak, it makes sense to place some or most of your extra virgin olive oil with supper rather than using it all at lunch. That doesn't mean the oil only works for a few hours like a drug. It means you're lining up a supportive food with the part of the day that sets the stage for sleep, vascular recovery, and that early morning transition when pressure often climbs. If you deal with reflux, don't take it right before lying down. Use it with the meal instead. That usually works much better. And please don't do olive oil shots because somebody on the internet told you that's the secret, because for most seniors, it isn't. It can upset the stomach, it can aggravate reflux, and it turns a beautiful food into a weird little performance. Extra virgin olive oil seems to do best when it's part of the meal, part of the pattern, part of what replaces less helpful fats. Drizzle it over roasted vegetables. Stir it into warm beans. Use it with a simple vinaigrette. Put a little on whole grain toast with sliced tomato. Let it help you eat better food, not become the entire event. That's the difference between a real health habit and a gimmick. Your body prefers the real habit. I also want to talk about what extra virgin olive oil may be replacing, because sometimes that's where the real magic is. And I use that word carefully. When a senior swaps butter, margarine, or heavy creamy toppings for extra virgin olive oil, they are not just adding something beneficial. They are subtracting something less helpful at the same time. That double effect matters. It's one reason some people notice improvement faster than expected. The body is no longer being asked to handle the same inflammatory burden from an evening meal. Blood vessels are getting a gentler message. Digestion is often smoother. Satiety may be better too. That can reduce late-night snacking, which is another hidden blood pressure trap. That's why my favorite way to use it for seniors is not exotic at all. It's practical American kitchen medicine. A tablespoon over green beans with dinner. Olive oil mixed with a little vinegar over a salad. A drizzle over black beans or lentils. A little over roasted carrots, asparagus, or Brussels sprouts. A touch on whole grain bread instead of butter. Maybe some on a baked potato with herbs instead of sour cream and bacon bits. Those swaps are powerful because they are sustainable. They don't ask you to become a nutrition influencer. They ask you to become a little more intentional tonight than you were yesterday. And intentionality repeated becomes physiology. If you want to know whether it's helping you, don't guess, measure. Check your blood pressure at consistent times. Write it down. Notice especially what your morning numbers are doing over 2 to 6 weeks, not just 2 to 6 days. Pay attention to how your body feels at night. Are your hands less puffy? Are you waking less tense? Do your morning headaches ease? Is your evening meal satisfying enough that you stop prowling the kitchen afterward? These details matter because health improvement is rarely one dramatic cinematic moment. It is usually a cluster of small, honest signals moving in the same direction. And when enough of them line up, something real is changing. I also want to address the viewers who say, "But doctor, I already use healthy oil and my blood pressure is still high." Because that's a fair question. The first thing I would ask is this: how much are you using and what did it replace? If the answer is a tiny drizzle at lunch, but butter, cheese sauces, deli meat, and salty packaged dinners at night, then the oil is not the problem. The overall pattern is. The second question is whether you're truly using extra virgin olive oil. And the third is whether there's another major nighttime driver like sleep apnea, chronic pain, or heavy evening alcohol. The oil helps best when it's part of honest pattern change. It cannot outvote chaos. There are also viewers who should be a little more careful, and I always believe in telling the truth about that. If you have gallbladder disease, significant reflux, or digestive issues that flare with fatty foods, start modestly and see how your body responds. If you are trying to lose weight, remember that olive oil is healthy but still calorie-dense. You cannot pour it freely and expect it not to count. If your pressure is already running low or you're on multiple medications, track your numbers carefully because improvements in diet can sometimes change what your body needs. And if you have any medical complexity, bring your log to your clinician. Safe progress is always better than reckless enthusiasm. I can already hear one of the questions coming. So let me answer it before you type it. Is olive oil the only good oil? No. Other plant oils can fit into a heart-healthy pattern too. But extra virgin olive oil stands out because it gives you more than just a favorable fat profile. It also gives you those natural polyphenols and antioxidant compounds when it is minimally processed. That's what makes it uniquely interesting for blood pressure and inflammation. So if this video title got your attention and you were expecting me to say canola or corn oil, no. The quiet nighttime helper I'm talking about is extra virgin olive oil, used in a thoughtful way. That's the distinction. Let me circle back to why this matters so much for people over 60 in the United States, because that's who I'm speaking to today. Many of you are not eating outrageous meals. You're eating convenient meals. You're not trying to damage your health. You're trying to make life manageable. You're tired. You're caring for a spouse. You're living alone. You don't want complicated recipes. And because of that, the biggest cardiovascular improvements often come from very simple swaps done consistently. Extra virgin olive oil is one of those swaps. It meets you where you are. It doesn't demand perfection. It simply asks, what fat will your body face tonight? And that answer matters more than most people realize. I've watched seniors cry over blood pressure logs, and if you've ever done that in private, I want you to know you are not weak. You are tired of being afraid. You are tired of every reading feeling like a threat. You are tired of being told to just eat better without anyone showing you what better actually looks like on an ordinary Tuesday night. So let me make this as plain as I can. Better can look like roasted vegetables with olive oil. Better can look like beans with olive oil and herbs instead of buttered noodles. Better can look like a quiet supper that does not inflame the body before bed. Healing often begins in ordinary choices. And this is exactly why the title says the oil is quietly lowering blood pressure and inflammation overnight, because quiet is the correct word. Extra virgin olive oil does not usually announce itself with a dramatic feeling. It does not make you buzz with energy. It does not knock you out like a sleeping pill. Its effect is quieter than that. It supports a healthier internal climate so that while you sleep, your body has a better chance to do what it was designed to do. Relax vessels. Improve blood flow. Reduce some inflammatory stress. Wake with less strain. That quietness is not weakness. It is often how real biological protection looks. Use 1 to 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil across the meal in place of butter, margarine, or heavy creamy toppings. Keep sodium in check. Take a short walk if you're able. Sit down with the lights a little lower. Let your nervous system come down instead of revving it up. Then sleep. That is not a miracle protocol. It is a calmer physiological runway into the night. The body responds beautifully to calmer runways. And if you do this, give it time, because your arteries did not become stiff in one evening and they will not become supple in one evening either. But bodies are responsive. Even older bodies are responsive. That is one of the most hopeful truths in medicine. At 62, 72, or 82, your system still notices what you feed it regularly. It still reacts to inflammatory burden. It still benefits from better fats replacing worse ones. It still responds when you lower the nightly strain. So never let anyone tell you that your age means these choices don't matter anymore. They matter profoundly. Before I close, I want you to remember Raymond one more time, because I think his story belongs to many of you. What changed his life was not a flashy cure. It was finally understanding that his morning blood pressure had a nighttime story behind it. Once he respected that, everything shifted. He stopped judging his health only by how he felt at noon. He started paying attention to what his body was carrying into bed. He changed the fat at supper. He became more intentional. And the mornings became less frightening. That is the kind of victory I want for you. Not perfection, not fantasy, just calmer mornings, steadier numbers, and a body that feels less under attack. That is worth pursuing. So here's my challenge to you. For the next 30 days, use real extra virgin olive oil intentionally with your evening meal and let it replace something less helpful. Track your morning blood pressure. Track how you feel at night. Track how your body greets the day. If you're already doing many things right, this may be the missing detail that helps everything else work better. And if this video helped you understand your body in a new way, subscribe to the channel. Share this with someone who checks their pressure every morning with a little fear in their chest, and tell me in the comments how you currently use olive oil. I read those comments and I care. Take care of your heart, take care of your evenings, and never forget this. The body you sleep in tonight is being built by the choices you made at supper, whether you notice it or not. Choose the kind of meal that gives your arteries a chance to rest. Choose the kind of oil that supports repair instead of burden. Choose the quiet habits that protect you long before the emergency ever comes. That's how real prevention works. Not always loudly, not always dramatically, but faithfully day after day, night after night. And if you start tonight, your heart may thank you in the morning. I'll see you in the next video.